talk a little bit about the voice. They've finally chosen a date for the referendum, 14th of October, I think, and got a little leaflet in the mail. Took them a long time to decide on a date. Been waiting most of the year for this. So it's a lot of drama. The yes vote has gone down dramatically in news polls. Started early in the year, I think it's 65%, but it's gone down to about 38% now. So it's unlikely to get up. There are problems with it. The Conservatives have gone against it, including the sort of conservative Aborigines, Jacinta Price, Warren Mundine. Anthony Mundine has spoken out about it. So that's unusual. And the, sort of the left Aborigines, a few of them are sceptical. I think Lydia Thorpe is against it. So it's not simply a sort of a left-right divide. Conservative or ALP, LNP, Dutton is making hay out of it. He's gone against it. He's been anti. So it's going down is going to boost him. He's going to have a big win over Albo. If it does fail, like it looks like it, and there are problems with it. The problem is in the detail. Got the little pamphlet, just a sort of 4-page pamphlet. Yes, 23, the pro yes campaign. And the voice is established via the recognition and the voice established by a yes and no vote. A referendum should have to carry in a majority in a majority of states. The plebiscite, like the gay marriage, was simply a majority-minority vote because it was a plebiscite. But a referendum has to carry not just a majority, but a majority of states, which is 4 out of 6. There are 6 states here, in case you don't know. And so it's going to be very difficult. We have a long history of referendums going down. A very small number of referenda have succeeded. So they were up against it from the start, and they've bungled it, really. They've gone. The whole thing has been run very poorly. They've got John Farnham adding the voice, that song, and Paul Kelly, the singer, put out a track. Too many celebrities, too many rich people. Adam Hills, he spends a lot of his time in Britain now. People aren't really going to go for that. And there are a philosophical point of, having a separate kind of a body, voice, whatever it is. There's no details. It just says on the yes pamphlet, we'll get the yes vote. We have to get the yes vote up. We have to have a voice that's desperately needed. And then it says, it's going to be consultation. What the voice actually is through Parliament and the Aboriginal community, so-called. Lots of different. There is no Aboriginal community really. There was a lot of tribal conflict and division by tribes, and those had some pretty intense hatreds. It's not not monogamous. It's heterogeneous. It's not just one single blob entity that's Aboriginal. It's a whole heap of tribes strewn over a very large country, different languages and different interests. And there's debate about who is an Aboriginal. There's not many full bloods around. I think it was 40,000 in the early 90s. And there's been a big uptick in the people who are claiming Aboriginal ancestry, who have just 1/4, maybe less than 1/4. Definitely not full bloods. So there's that. And that's debated in the Aboriginal community. There's a bit of a ruction about it. People with very little ancestry claiming to be Indigenous. There was a drama, in the 80s, 90s. Um, People who had a little bit of Aboriginal blood were able to claim uh, a few freebies that had been legislated, school books, that weren't available to people, the non-Indigenous people. They lived amongst and who are in a very similar economic situation in our little sort of town there. And so there was a division created artificially by the bureaucracy, and it wasn't real good. It sowed a little bit of sort of division and uh, resentfulness among the general population, because some of these people had very little ancestry at all. And I guess a lot of the people, there's about 200,000 added since the last census. I guess a lot of those people have very little. And that's just a fact. You can. Some people claim, just a tiny bit of in Aboriginal blood and you're Indigenous. But, if you're 7/8 white, um, English, Scottish, German, etc., 7/8, or why should that person have a voice? Uh, you know, and the Aborigines have very different interests. Like someone living in like a more tribal lifestyle, traditional lifestyle, up near Arnhem Land or Northern Territory, somewhere like that. It's very different to say even someone in Lismore, uh, and even they're very different to even someone living in the city. Um, Maybe Aboriginals, different amounts of blood and different lifestyles. Someone with a nice white collar job, say in the city, or a decent paying job, and compared to people out in the bush, out in the outback, all very different interests, and so there's no one homogenous sort of Aboriginal interest there, and that's sort of one problem with it too. Well, who's going to be the voice? Um, there's just no details. It'll be worked out through consultation and legislation later, but that's sort of not good enough, is it? Getting no details, we'll just vote yes. We'll get a voice, change the constitution. We'll just work out the details later. Oh, it's just that's the reason enough on its own just to reject it. Um, so for conservative sort of Aborigines or sort of more right wing anarchist Aborigines, uh, or left, it's going to be a big ruction about it because who's going to have the power? There's going to be an internal power struggle between all these different groups of very different worldviews and interests and lifestyles. Supposed to pick maybe one person or a handful of people, and they could use it to their own advantage without any benefit to Aborigines. Look at ATSIC, that was a lot of trouble there. Sort of a bureaucratic class taking advantage of the bureaucracy and not helping the other blackfellas a whole lot. That was they dumped that in the end. So there's a lot more to discuss about it. If the Aborigines get a voice, well, maybe the Koreans could have a voice. There's probably more Koreans here and Chinese than blackfellas, and so maybe a Korean voice or an Italian voice or religion, a Buddhist voice. There's a philosophical problem there with creating a separate body. Just doesn't melt, does it? It doesn't meld together. It's not coherent. The whole thing is incoherent. Albo has run it very poorly. too many dodgy people, celebrities, rich celebrities. Alan Joyce, I think. Oh boy. So the whole thing has been run very poorly. So I think it will be defeated pretty comfortably, but it's a lot of a lot of fuss about nothing. It's a waste of money and time and resources that could have been better spent just on direct help for Aborigines, especially full bloods and like out in the bush, still struggling with a lot of problems. So I just think it's in the end, it's just going to be simply a huge waste of time and money. And maybe Albo should pay the price for it. Maybe his time in the top job is limited.